The second law of behavior change is to make it attractive. And the more attractive your habits are, the more compelling or appealing they are, the more motivating or enticing they are, the more you're going to feel like doing it. And so the more attractive a habit is, the better positioned you are to actually follow through. You can imagine a bunch of different ways to do this. There are some short-term ways and some long-term ways to increase the attractiveness of your habits. One of the short-term ways is to get other people enlisted, to get other people kind of involved in it. So for me, one of the key habits that I like to perform in my job is to send a newsletter every week. And so, I send out a new newsletter every Thursday. That's a really crucial habit for my business, but I don't always feel like writing on Thursday. So I try to do whatever I can to make that habit as attractive as possible. And one of the things is I have someone on my team who helps me prep the draft for that email. If you know my newsletter, there are like kind of 6 pieces of information in it. And most weeks, I will change all 6 things that are in the template that she sends to me. But it's much more attractive for me to be working on a draft that's already there than for me to be staring at a blank page. And so just reducing a little bit of that friction, getting somebody else involved. Also, I know that if I didn't do it, I'm dropping the ball on my end, right? Like she's expecting it too. Getting that back to her really helps a lot. The process of changing your habits is really just the process of changing the story that you have in your mind, of reprogramming your brain in some way. The truth is, every habit that you perform, you have some story in your mind about why you're doing it. So when you see a cookie and choose to eat it, you have a story in your mind that cookies are tasty and enjoyable, and that's why I want to do it. When you check your email incessantly throughout the day, you have a story in your mind about, I need to be checking email because that's what it means to be productive, and that's how I stay up to date on things at work, and so on. And it's like that for every habit that you have. If you can change that story about how you're benefiting or why you're benefiting from doing this behavior, then your behavior often shifts naturally. And so, to some degree, if you can reprogram your brain, then you can really change your behavior in a fast and efficient way. For example, Ed Lattimore, who's a writer and a boxer, his little writing ritual is he would go to the same spot in the library each day to write, and then he'd put his headphones on, and he would play the same playlist each time. Now, he realized one day he sat down at the library desk, he's got his laptop open, he's writing, he's been doing a couple different sentences, he's making his way down the page. He wasn't listening to anything, he just had his headphones on, he was just sitting there in silence. And what he realized was just the act of sitting at the table, opening up his laptop and putting his headphones on, that was enough to get him in the pregame routine, to get his mind going and be like, oh, it's time to write. He had forgotten to press play because he was already into the habit. And the idea there is not to copy what I did or what Ed did, but just to come up with a ritual that feels right for you. To come up with a sequence of steps that gets you in the right flow, that gets you in the right mindset. And then you're like, okay, now it's time for me to sit down and do my thing. But there's also a more rapid way to do it, which is you can just utilize these little, I like to call them like mindset reframes. And some of these little phrases, they can really get you in a different mindset. For example, Nelson Mandela, he has a great one where he says, I never lose, I either win or I learn. And I love that as just a little quick mindset rephrase of what it means to succeed or fail. And he's like, well, it's not failure, it's just learning. And all types of little things like that can be useful as you go on this journey to building better habits. For example, I had a strength and conditioning coach in college. He had this great little line where he would say, you guys are going to come in here and you're going to tell me all this stuff that you have to do. I have to do this workout. I have to do this, this terrible set of sprints that you're going to ask me to do. I have to go study for exams. I have to go wake up early and go to class. He loved to always reframe it for us. He would say, no, you get to do this workout. You get to do this set of sprints. You get to go study for exams. You get to wake up early for class. And simple reframes like that. I don't lose, I learn, or I don't have to, I get to. There are a variety of things like that that can help reprogram the way that you view the opportunity that's in front of you right now. And sometimes those short-term mindset reframes can really help. And that difference between have to and get to, it helps reframe things. It transforms the things throughout your day from seeing like an obligation to becoming an opportunity. So if we take financial savings, for example, I had a couple readers who they wanted to save more money. They realized that they were eating out for meals a lot. And so they thought, well, maybe we can start cooking for ourselves and not eat out as frequently throughout the week, and we can save some of that money. Again, just kind of this habit of avoidance. They're like, well, if we don't go out to eat, we're just kind of, nothing's happening. We're just not going out to eat. So that's not that fun. And then we got to put work in to cook this meal. So that caused a little bit of friction there. And they tried to find a way to make it enjoyable. And so what they did was they opened up this separate savings account and they labeled it Trip to Europe. And then anytime they didn't go out to eat, they would transfer, $50 or $100 or whatever into that account. And so now they still aren't going out to eat. They don't have the immediate return on that, but they do have this little signal in the moment of, hey, this is enjoyable. This is a little more attractive because we can see this bank account increasing, even though we're not getting the meal. The strategies that we've talked about so far for making habits attractive, they're mostly short-term in timeline. They're mostly focused on getting you going this week or this month. Like, they're good for overcoming procrastination, getting yourself going, getting started. But if you really want a habit to stick for the long run, like if you really want this to last for years or who knows, in some cases even decades, then that level of consistency with your habits, almost always, there's some kind of social component involved. Now, that doesn't always mean you do it with somebody, but it does mean that the expectation that you do it or the social groups you're a part of, it's the norm in that group. Let's say I walk outside my house and I look across the street and I see my neighbor, they're mowing their lawn. I might think, oh man, I need to cut the grass too. And you'll stick to that habit of mowing your lawn for 5 years or 10 years or 30 years, like however long you live in the house, and like, why do we do it? Partially you do it because it feels good to have a clean lawn, but mostly it feels good to have a clean lawn because you don't want to be judged by the other people in the neighborhood for being the sloppy one. And so it's actually that social expectation that gets you to follow through on the habit. It's the fact that this is what it means to be a neighbor on this street, and this is how everybody kind of expects you to operate, that gets you to follow through. Now, we wish we had that level of consistency with many of our other habits. We wish we could follow through for that long. So how do we utilize that force, that social expectation, in more beneficial ways? Humans are herd animals. We want to fit in to avoid conflict. So behaviors are attractive when they help us fit in. We copy the way our coworkers get results, or we copy the way our friends communicate, or we copy the way our partner keeps the house tidy. The second law of behavior change is make it attractive. The more attractive a behavior, the more habit-forming it is. Reprogram your story. Reframe your mindset from have to get to. Socialize your habit. So an assignment for you with this. As you think about how to make your habits more attractive, you can ask yourself, what groups am I a part of? Who do I belong to? Where do I hang out? And how can I expose myself to people who have the habits that I want to have? How can I join groups where my desired behavior is the normal behavior? It's easy to want big changes fast, but I want you to go in the other direction.